Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Erdley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I'm your host, Catherine Erdley, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. The Resilient Retail Club is my membership group and consultancy for product businesses. You can find out more about my one-to-one services, such as my 6-month mentoring or my business audits, at resilientretailclub.com, as well as all about the club itself. And if you use the code 10podcast, that's 10podcast, you can get £10 off your first month. On to today's episode, which I am recording while my brand new puppy is fast asleep. I feel like the next few episodes should be entitled Things I Recorded While the Puppy was Sleeping, so let's just hope we don't get interrupted by any barks at the end. What I wanted to talk to you about today, so we're in the first week of December, and it is that point at which we're kind of arriving at the peak of Christmas selling, but simultaneously looking at what's going on in terms of last posted dates, especially with all the disruption with Royal Mail, and also thinking ahead to that sort of quieter time of the year. So what I wanted to do today is talk to you a little bit about stock management at Christmas. It's not the most enticing of subjects, I know, but it's definitely something for you to just take a few minutes to think about now, because there are some decisions that it would be helpful for you to make, especially if you're a business that carries a lot of seasonal stock. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So what we're going to talk about now is really the kinds of discussions that I would have been having with my teams during my many, many years in retail head office, particularly in the run up to Christmas. And I just want to kind of share with you some of the thought processes that are specific to the Christmas time period that are probably, some of them are elements of stock planning that are relevant all year round, but really this is questions that you specifically want to ask yourself at Christmas. What I'm going to be sharing with you then is 5 cash boosting tips for managing your small business stock at Christmas, because of course, as we move into 2023, one of the things that you're going to want to be really aware of in your business, and to be honest, at all times, but especially at times of uncertainty, is just how nimble you can make your business, how much you can be cash rich as opposed to stock rich, and what that means for the decisions that you might want to take. So the first thing that I'm going to talk to you about, the first tip for boosting your cash, is to think about your brown bananas. I love this phrase. I wheel it out every Christmas. And the brown bananas are the things that you need to look at in your business that have an expiry date. So brown bananas means different things for different people. They're so-called brown bananas because on the 26th of December, or a different date depending on what the product is, there's a certain date at which nobody will want them. Because let's face it, nobody wants brown bananas unless you're making banana bread, but that's another story. So brown bananas are really the items that have an expiry. It's as simple as that. Now, for some of you, especially if you have food businesses or other businesses that have actual expiry dates, then there will be actual brown banana equivalents with dates where things may no longer be usable. So you want to be aware of those for sure, especially if you're, for example, a lifestyle business that perhaps has a few food items. So it's not your main focus. So you maybe haven't thought about it too much. Make sure that you're checking everything for your expiry dates, making sure that you're not going to be suddenly left with things that you just simply can't sell. So there's the actual physical expiry, and then there's products that just simply are no longer relevant after a certain point. So if you are listening to this on the day the podcast comes out, which is the 8th of December, 2022, and you've got advent calendars, for example, you already have brown bananas, because advent calendar selling pretty much expires by around the 1st or 2nd of December. Of course, there's that flurry of last minute purchases. But once you've got advent calendars sort of towards that first week and later in December, then you pretty much are going to have to hit those really hard to discount them. Other types of brown bananas, anything that is really overtly Christmassy, anything that is with a snowman on, a Christmas tree, a Father Christmas, anything that says Merry Christmas, anything that says Happy New Year, that obviously will be a brown banana on the 31st of December. Sometimes also things like Christmas trees, Christmas tree decorations, if they're kind of packs of decorations rather than individual ones, they become a bit brown banana-y after about the middle of December because most people's trees will be up. Similarly, packs of cards, especially with the postal strikes, then things like packs of cards will tail off sooner than individual cards because individual cards you're going to give to people last minute, often they're for relatives and things like that. Whereas packs of cards are the ones that you would send out. Whereas if you've missed those posting dates, then you are out of luck. So lots of different types of things that you can be thinking about. Diaries, calendars, anything with a date on it, they have definitely an expiry date. Now, if you are in a big retailer, what you're doing is you're running things like your sales velocities or your sell-through rates, and you're estimating how much stock you've got compared to how long you've got left to sell it. So, for example, I was in a big home improvement store at the weekend and they had quite a lot of money off, actually, their trees and tree decorations. And my family was saying, how come they're reducing them? Because this is the time when a lot of people are buying. And my answer was probably somebody somewhere has running a sales velocity report looking at how much stock they've got compared to how long they've got to sell it. And they're like, we've got to speed this up because we want to be out of it. So around you, once you kind of tune into this concept of a brown banana, you can often look around you and see what's happening in other people's businesses, in big businesses in particular. And you'll understand when you start seeing some of those discounting, that's what's happening. They're trying to beat the expiration date because 20% off or 25% off now to encourage people to buy their trees and their tree decorations is much better than what you have to do after something has expired, which is to hit it much harder to clear it, so 50% and upwards. So, for example, there are always people who will pop into the Boxing Day sales in a big retailer and snap up all of their Christmas themed stuff at half off and put it in a box and keep it for next year. But that is not the majority of people, which is why they have to discount so heavily. Have a think about, is there anything in your business that you are going to have to discount heavily? Now, of course, if you're a small business, you may be thinking, well, I don't discount my stock. If I get to Christmas and I haven't sold it all, then I will put it in a box and I'll bring it out next year, which is completely valid. And a lot of people do that, and it's completely fine. My only issue with that is that, number one, things get soiled. So shop soiling is a major issue. So if you keep something in a box for a year, it's likely to get bashed or damaged, dirty, marked, dusty. It may even expire, even if it's something that's got quite a long expiration date. So you want to be thinking really carefully about what goes into that box, because what kind of a state is it going to be when you pull it out, and you're going to have to discount it even further. The other thing I'd say about that box of Christmas stuff that can live on to the next year is just go back to this theory of, if you look at every single piece of product in your business, thinking about the cash that it represents instead of it being a physical product, then you have to look at it and say, okay, this is a box full of cash, basically, that you're stashing away for another year where you may or may not sell it, or you may still have to discount it heavily. So ask yourself, is it worth it to keep it? Or would it be better for your business to actually get that cash into your business and have it sitting around in January ready for you to reinvest in new products and basically just, let's face it, whose business doesn't need a bit more cash in it? Think very carefully about what you want to do. And obviously, I know for a lot of people, they may have a very full price first model. In other words, you don't do many discounts, you don't really do sales, things like that. You're very much about not encouraging excess consumption, things like that, which is totally understandable. The one thing I will say is that customers really do understand the concept of something like a seasonal clearance. And I don't think it's brand damaging for you to be clearing some of your seasonal stock in a way that just helps you sell through and avoid being left with these brown bananas. So I don't think that is particularly brand damaging. If you're listening to this podcast while you're packing orders, or you're in your shop, or whatever it is you're doing, or going through your customer service emails, just take a few moments and just ask yourself, okay, what do I have that's got an expiration date? Do I have a plan for this? How would I feel if I was sitting with this still in January? So that is my first tip, look at your brown bananas. Number two is to look at how much stock you've got in general. So this is something that I know is easier for some people than others. Some people will use, for example, Shopify's inbuilt inventory management system, or you may have other ways of controlling it. And some of you will not really have any idea how much stock you've got. But I would encourage you, even if it's not something that you look at that often, I would look and see how much stock you have got left at this point in the year, because many people will buy stock in for Christmas. And so you will have probably more stock right now, or depends. I mean, you could have had a really successful selling season. You could have had a few really amazing events where you've really sold through. But that's useful to know as well. So really understand how much you've got left. How much have you got left? And think about it specifically as it compares to how much you think you're going to sell. Do you have loads left, but you know the last couple of weeks of December are really a big rush? Maybe you're a physical store and you know that Christmas Eve is probably going to be your busiest shopping day. So, full Saturday shopping day before Christmas. That, for big retailers, they're going to be expecting that to be mega. So do you think that you're going to be having a really busy time the next couple of weeks, so you're not that worried? But just basically ask yourself, how much stock have I got left in cash value, and how much do I think I'm going to sell between now and Christmas? And how does the relationship between those two look? If you have got 10 times more stock than you think you're going to sell between now and Christmas, but then actually that's okay because January is going to be busy, basically just take the time to look and ask yourself, how much stock have I got? Is it a lot? Is it not much? Is there anything I need to do? Are there any actions that I need to take? And the third tip would be, once you've done this, once you've actually taken the time to look at your stock, to understand how much you've got, and also just to understand, you may have bought a whole load of stock in for Christmas. Have you been clearing through it? Was that the right thing to do? Does that feel right? Or are you sitting on a lot of stock? And then the third tip then, once you've done that exercise of looking at how much stock you've got left, then classify your stock. Ask yourself, is this carry forward stock or clearance stock? So what does that mean? Well, carry forward stock, we always used to say, when we were discussing this in big retailers, we would always say, okay, on the 1st of January, are you going to be proud to have this on your shelves or in your warehouse, on your website? So that's the kind of thing that you're going to have some carry forward stock, which is going to be really applicable to spring selling. You are going to be absolutely fine with it. It could be a core product in your range. It could be the kind of thing that sells day in, day out. So you don't really worry about it. You don't have to do anything with that stock. You might just want to be like, okay, this is great. This is the carry forward stock. This is what's going to make up my range in January. And I'm absolutely fine, happy to have it. Then you may say to yourself, okay, but these things I am not going to be so happy to have. And there could be various different reasons. So for example, you may have some ends of line. You may have a couple of products that were really good, but you've sold through them now and you've just got a few things hanging around and it's beginning to feel a bit bitty, for want of a better word. So those are the kind of things you may think, right, okay, well, could I clear through those? Could I do a sample sale on my stories? Could I do a bit of a samples and seconds sale on the website maybe? Or maybe I just have a stock clearance sale, maybe starting on the 26th or maybe starting on New Year's Day, depending on how you want to manage your business. Give yourself some time off over Christmas or not. Those are the kinds of things I think I just want to clear through a couple of different items left. Now, you could have a couple of items left and decide that you're happy to have them in January. That's totally up to you. You know your business the best. But it's the exercise of going through and really confronting, for want of a better word, how much stock you've got left and asking yourself what is carry forward and what is clear. Clear could also be something that you know for a fact it just doesn't sell that well. You had high hopes for it. Of course you did, because you brought it into your business, but it just hasn't really been selling for some reason that you can't quite pinpoint. It's just never been a customer favorite. And so therefore you know that you're going to have to clear it. So those are the kinds of things as well. Or maybe you just got so much stock of it that if you don't do something, you're going to be sitting on this for 2 years, and that's at risk of getting shop soiled. There could also be some things that they're not quite brown bananas, but you're kind of just keeping an eye on them. So for example, let's say you have knitwear or other warm weather products such as hot water bottles, or even some kind of really heavy Christmas gifting product like makeup bags or items that you know that, well, you could still sell them in January, but maybe they're kind of wintry colours. There is going to definitely be a selling period in January to March, really, where people do still buy warm and wintry products. But the customer mindset does switch fairly soon into the spring, where they don't want to buy wintry things anymore. They want to buy more springy things. So again, in a big retailer, we would pretty much want to try and be out of a lot of our products, a lot of our winter products by January, February time. That has changed over the years. Interestingly, when I first started out, it was really, really heavily seasonal, that almost nothing wintry could live past Christmas. But reality is people still buy jumpers and coats and hats and scarves in February and March, especially if it's cold and dreary February and March. there is still a sense of those things are really their peak selling period is the run up to Christmas. So just ask yourself, are there any things that it's not like you desperately need to get rid of them? They're not quite brown bananas, but if you've got lots and lots of stock of them, do you really think you're going to sell through in the spring? And if again, you don't, January to March, you think I'll sell through a bit, but that's fine. I'll just keep it till next autumn. Then that's fine too. I'm not saying you have to clear it. Again, this is really about you looking at your stock and asking yourself, almost line by line, unless you've got a massive collection, I would suggest that you go through line by line and almost ask yourself, when do I think this peak selling period is? Do I think we've gone past it or not? Is it a core item that can just live on all year? Do I need to take any action with the amount of stock that I've got compared to how much I'm selling? Or actually, can it just sit there and be part of the collection? I don't have to do anything. But these are all useful things to think about because, of course, again, going back to this idea that if we're about to hit the peak selling period, then some of these things you're going to be able to discount them slightly, not massive discounts, but just a little bit of a discount to push some sales during the peak selling period, especially if it's something that is both wintry and giftable, like, for example, hot water bottle. Then you might just want to kind of give those a smaller discount so that you can take advantage of some pre-Christmas sales. Now, I do appreciate you don't have a huge amount of time to kind of do this thought process and action it, but given that we're in the first week of December. But this is the kind of, I think, mentality as well that it's just really helpful to approach with your stock because it helps you be a lot more strategic and also just helps you free up your cash flow because there's a lot of stuff that you can predict with your stock. If you look at it, I bet you could probably tell me when things peak selling period times are, whether or not you think you're going to need to take any action or not. And especially if you get into the habit of looking at things like this and assessing them, then over time you just develop, it's like a muscle, you develop that muscle of really understanding the different nuances and what you need to do. So once you've done that, so we talked about identifying your brown bananas. We've talked, second tip was just know how much stock you've got altogether. Number 3 is classify the stock you've got as whether it's carry forward or clear. The 4th is put together a plan for clearance. So are you going to have a clearance sale? Are you going to do one post-Christmas? If so, I would start planning it in the same way that you plan any launch, and you would advertise it in the same way that you'd advertise a launch. This is something that you want to make as big a stink about as possible for as short a period of time as possible. You want it short, sharp, in, out. You want to identify what you don't think you need. You need to decide, okay, am I going to go in at 50 off? If I just need to get rid of it, am I going to go in at, say, 20 or 30 off? If it's just I've got a bit too much stock and I'm not really super excited about carrying too much stock into spring, so I'm going to see if I can move a bit. You just kind of want to look at all of the products that you could theoretically put into a sale, and you need to decide how heavy a discount you want. So again, I would suggest if it is potentially damaged or a brown banana, I think those are the ones that you want to consider putting straight to 50% off. Also, it helps with your messaging. If you, for example, have a certain number of products that are 50% off, as long as that represents more than 10% of your stock, you can have a sale message that says up to 50% off everything in the sale, even if some of the things in the sale are maybe 20 or 30% off. So that's worth considering as well, because you want to think about your sale messaging too. If you're running a sale, for example, for maybe 2 weeks, I would think about your messaging. And it's not just going to be, I'm having a sale for 2 weeks. Big retailers, they really cadence their sales messaging. So they will talk about, for example, new lines added, further discounts, all these kinds of things. There's lots of different options, the ways that you can alter the messaging as you go along so that you can not just say I'm having a sale for 2 weeks, but really actually talk about different things and keep the customer interested. And I also suggest that once you launch the sale, after a day or two, analyze it again, look at, okay, how much did I sell of these products and how much stock have I got left? Again, this was something that we would do every Monday, week after week in a big retailer. We would sit down, we would go through the sale data, we would look at what was selling, we would look at what discount it was at, and we would make a proposal to take it further if it wasn't selling. So it wasn't just a once and done. It was literally week after week, we would look at it and we would hit it again and hit it again. And we always used to say, everything has got a price. It will sell eventually. You just have to work out what that price is. This was a pretty aggressive approach because we were really trying to get our sale. I think we had a target often of about 3% terminal stock. In other words, you had to sell through 97% of something in a season, especially seasonal products like fashion. We had to sell through 97%, including the sale. Our main goal was just to clear the stock. Of course, you may not be that aggressive, but it's just worth taking the time to have a look. If you put a sale on and some things are at 20, 30% off and then just not moving, and you've just got loads of stock left and you really know you want to clear through, well, then why not take those a few days later to 50% off? And then you can send out another message saying further reductions or new lines added or whatever else it works out at. So make sure that you are putting together that plan, making sure that you are creating some sales graphics, think about a sales homepage, think about sales emails for sure. Make sure you're offering early access to emails, to sales for people who are on your email list. So that could be another way to encourage signups, make sure they get VIP access, all of that kind of thing. Consider if at the last day of sale, you want to do like an extra 10% off everything code to your VIP customers. Again, all ways to incentivize people to join your email list. But just basically decide, are you going to do a sale? Some people just look at their stock and they think, do you know what? I've actually got so little that's seasonal or so little that is really ready to be cleared that I don't even think it's worth it. That's fine. Don't plan a sale. But for other people, they'll just be like, you know what? Actually, I bought a lot of stock and maybe my sales weren't quite where I wanted them to be. So therefore, there's a lot sitting here that's going to be cash. You know, if you've got thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pounds tied up in stock, then just ask yourself, would you be better off doing a stock clearance sale and getting through some of that, anything that you don't want to carry forward, and have that money in your pocket? What could you do with that money? What could it mean for you in terms of support for your business or new product development, for example? So just make some decisions basically about whether or not you want to have an event and put your plan together. Also, then the final point, once you've done all of those things, is a sense check forward into spring. So if you have had a really phenomenal Christmas season, you've had some really strong events, your web sales have been really good, just ask yourself, what's going to happen in January? Have I got anything left? Is there new stock coming in already? Have I got those plans? And equally, if perhaps you had a bit of a quieter Q4 than you were expecting, have you already planned some purchases in for spring that now you looking back, you think, well, actually, that's going to be another big hit of cash going out in order to bring these products in. So therefore, actually, maybe I won't do that right away. I'm going to focus in January to March, really selling through some of this existing stock. When it's done correctly, or when you kind of get into the flow of it, then it is really all about anticipating problems before they happen. So at the very least, just think about the spring, look forward. If you're a Resilient Retail Club member, then you can look in the course, Grow Your Profits. There's lots there about stock management. There's lots there about cash flow planning, lots about stock management planning. In my new book, Tame Your Tiger, which is coming out February the 21st and is available for pre-order, there's a lot there about putting together a stock plan as well. And I am going to be working on a new course for the membership, which basically goes into more detail than the book as well. It's a very deep topic. Obviously, today we just covered some top tips. If nothing else, would really encourage you to start looking at your stock with a really critical eye and just be really aware of what needs to carry forward, what needs to be cleared. What does this mean for me going forward? Stock clearance sales are effectively a safety valve for businesses. They're a way of clearing through stock, which maybe isn't moving as fast as it could have done, anytime that they've overbought, things like that. It's all there for you to help free up some cash, because let's face it, as I said, going into 2023, we could all do with being a little bit more cash rich. And of course, just finally, just to say as well, if you are looking to make a plan for 2023, I do have my business audits, which are a way of working with me one-to-one. We do 2 one-hour sessions. The first one is to go through a pre-work questionnaire where we go through in depth about what's going on in your business. And so I have a really good understanding of what's happening, what your strengths are and where your areas are for improvement. We also talk about stock, we talk about bestsellers, we talk about plans going forward. And then our second hour is really to flesh out that plan for 2023 so that you can leave the session feeling confident about what's ahead. So if that sounds interesting to you, then just drop me a line, Catherine@resilientretailclub.com, or go check out the website, resilientretailclub.com, my new website. I've just been getting to grips with it, but I'm very proud of my brand shiny new website. If so, go check out resilientretailclub.com. There's a section there called Business Audit and have a look at all the details there. I have one available for January and a couple available in February. So if you're interested, get in touch. There's a form on the website you can submit, or you can just send me an email and we can have a chat about it. But it is something definitely for all business owners to think about, is how much stock they've got coming up into January. And now is the time that you can do something about it. That's why I wanted to do this episode now. Stock management's important all year round, but in the run up to Christmas, this is the peak selling period. So if you do just want to do a little bit of stock clearance activity by discounting likely some items that you just don't really want to carry forward into January, then now's the time to do it. And it's the time to really discount, probably not so lightly, your brown bananas, because those are the things that you are definitely going to be left with if you don't take action. Or you just make a really big feature. If you've got a brown banana, you better sell your socks off and see if you can clear through it just by simply showing up and talking about it, making it the feature of all of your marketing campaigns to make sure that you get through it. But the key thing here is to do the exercise, is to go through, look at your stock, look at what you need to do for each different element and make sure you're taking appropriate action. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, if you have a moment to rate and review the podcast, I would be so appreciative. If you go into iTunes, you can leave a review. If you go into Spotify, you can rate it in the app. And of course, if you follow or subscribe, you'll be the first to know about each new episode. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.